about the theory of everything, or string theory, or M theory? Again, the fact is that this model also fails to secure the infinitude of the past. In very recent work done in September of last year by Arvin Bord and Alex Vilenkin, in cooperation with Alan Guth of MIT, they were able to generalize their results on inflationary models that I spoke about in my first speech, in such a way as to extend these conclusions to other models, including M theory, string cosmology. And specifically, they noted, I quote, "Our argument can be straightforwardly extended to cosmology in higher dimensions," specifically brain cosmology mentioned by Philip in his last speech. So according to Vilenkin, and I quote, "It follows from our theorem that the cyclic universe is past incomplete. That is to say, the need for an initial singularity has not been eliminated, and therefore such universes are not past incomplete." So again, when you look at the evidence scientifically, it is on the side of that disjunction that the universe had an absolute beginning, and that's the conclusion that most cosmologists accept. Now, if it had a beginning, it therefore follows, I believe, that that beginning had to have a cause. And here Philip didn't dispute this, that if the universe did begin to exist, there must have been a cause which brought it into being. Then I argued that that cause must be personal, and he did not dispute either of my arguments for the personhood of the first cause. Instead, in his last speech, he says, "But what is the point of providing an answer that simply raises further questions?" Well, all scientific explanations are like that. Every scientific explanation you give raises further questions, and that isn't a deficit of the explanation. If we learn that a disease is caused by a certain virus, we'll still want to know then where did that virus come from? So that the very nature of explanation arises further questions, and I think that the God hypothesis does raise profound questions about the nature of God and his relationship to us. Does he care for us? Has he revealed himself in any special way that we might know him more fully? Or has he remained aloof and distant from the world that he has made? He says, well, in Christianity, there is a beginning, but there is no end, and this is aesthetically displeasing. Well, but ironically, this is exactly what modern science teaches. Modern science says that the universe and time began at the moment of the Big Bang, and the universe will simply expand forever, world without end. So the very asymmetry that he finds distasteful is postulated by modern science as well as by the Christian faith. In fact, any linear view of time that has a beginning of the universe has such an asymmetrical quality to it. And I simply would say that the facts contradict his aesthetic tastes, and therefore we need to go with the facts. Finally, in conclusion, let me just say a personal word, since Philip felt free to share from his own autobiography. I myself wasn't raised in a church-going family or a Christian home as Philip was. But as a teenager, I began to ask the big questions in life about the meaning of existence. And I also felt that darkness and despair that he writes of in his book. But I found the answer in Jesus Christ and in God. I found that through Jesus Christ, I could come to know this personal Creator in a personal way that invested my meaning with joy and purpose that I never dreamt possible. And I would encourage you, if you're an open-minded seeker today, to do what I did, to look into this, begin to explore, keep an open mind, because I believe it could change your life in the same way that it changed mine.
I'd like to congratulate you on having a highly intelligent cat, incidentally. Look, you're very fast and loose with the science. I haven't got time to go into it today. Perhaps we can do it next time. But your manipulation of scientific theory is really not worthy of you. The jury is out on all these models. They are constantly in fluctuation. They are constantly being amended. And Paul Davies, a dear friend of mine, although we profoundly disagree on this issue, is just as likely to change his mind in the light of new M theory, which in fact does take us back before the singularity. So suddenly there is an argument about what happened before that remarkable nanosecond. The other part of the debate we haven't tackled, but Bill has just had a crack at it, is the relevance of God, and I'd like to spend a the 5 minutes I've got left dealing with that. I think God, if he, she or it exists, should be ashamed of him, her or itself. For the last couple of thousand years it's caused us nothing but trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now narrowly escaped the 20th century in which 150 million people died in wars and genocides. 150 million of our fellow human beings were slaughtered and butchered in that century. And I think there's every chance that in the 21st century we might even exceed that number the way things are going. I would put it to you that God and the belief in God played a significant part in the majority of those deaths. Not that religion was necessarily responsible for that carnage, but all too often it was. But all too often, clearly, it exacerbated. And I can't think of a case where religious belief sorted out a problem. Christianity specifically promises peace, love and harmony. It doesn't deliver. Christianity just cuts itself to pieces in Northern Ireland. It tears the world apart in the Balkans, even without its hatred of the Muslim world. It tears itself apart in the Balkans, as I said. We've also got to face the awesome fact that that at the moment we've got a world teetering on the edge of another catastrophe between Christian and Muslim, not for the first time by any means. So I look at religion and I see, what's the point of it? What's the point of it? Show me anywhere where it has really helped. I spend most of my time at the moment working with fellow Christians who I deeply love on the issue of the refugee crisis in Australia. We're fighting a Christian Prime Minister and a Christian Minister for Immigration who are pushing this malevolent, cruel and shameful policy in the name of Christianity. What is the point of the God that Bill asks you to embrace, or indeed the religion he seeks you to embrace? We're probably on the edge of a world where God, ever receding, ever retreating, changing his nature, his appearance, his emphases, were the gods that I listed before, all of whom have used up their use-by dates, all of whom have gone to God, when the God that William is postulating will also slowly die, like the second law of thermodynamics, which is in fact the one thing that all scientists currently agree on, the ultimate death of this universe, however it was born. We may be about to live, therefore, in a world without gods of any sort, in a world without God. And if we do so, if he's on his deathbed, I don't think that should be a cause for mourning. It may in fact be a wonderful opportunity to see if we can make a better fist of it, of this world we live in, without the great divisions created by belief in God, let alone by belief in Jesus Christ. I have a great affection for Jesus. I think he was one of the great stand-up comics of history. I think his one-liners are devastating, and although we know that there's very little known about the historical Jesus, as Christian scholars all Christian scholars of any relevance agree, the historical Jesus is very hard to find. I have great respect for him, but I do not respect the Judeo-Christian God because I regard him, or her, or it, as a brute who has created great cruelty and great horror on this world, if he or she in fact exists. No, we don't sort it out, Bill. We'll never agree. This is something that will never happen, I think, as long as there are humans, that there will be an agreement on this issue. And probably it would be boring if there was. But I go back to the point I made before. The one thing which we must agree is that this division between us, in your case over the existence of God, but otherwise should not stop us working together on important issues involving justice, compassion and decency. At the end of the day, I have to say, God doesn't matter. Thank you.
If everyone would like to take out their comment cards now, this is your chance, your opportunity to say where you thought the stronger argument lay in this debate tonight. It's also the opportunity, if you're interested in finding out more about Christianity, that tick the box that's there on that card. and please drop them in a red bucket.